Welcome! In this video we will check out the Beatmaker VICE. It's an 80s kind of synthwave plugin for generating authentic drums. Quick disclaimer, I did receive this plugin for free from Ujam in order to make this showcase video. That said, my thoughts are always my own. My name is Mattias and let's take the tour. Right, so this is a short demo I put together with the Beatmaker VICE plugin. And if we look at the arrangement here, we can see it's nothing too fancy. It's just one track here with the Beatmaker VICE plugin. It's called the BM-VICE. And if we look at the MIDI data of these MIDI clips, you can see that it's actually loops playing. So that's the major great feature of the Beatmaker VICE plugin is that you get these individual hit samples and you also get these loops for creating your own tracks. So we have verses loops, you have chorus loops, we have introductions, intros and fills, endings and also breakdown sections. So if we look at and pre-listen to some of these loops. And some of the ending phrases. Yeah, so that's some of the phrases or the loops, the MIDI loops within Beatmaker VICE. And you can see you can also activate the latch here, so you can have these playing by just pressing a key and then you don't have to hold the MIDI note. So that's individual samples and you get loops, and there's a whole set of different MIDI loop styles, and each of these MIDI loops have all these verses, choruses, intros, fills, endings and breakdowns, etc. So there's quite a lot of MIDI data, which is a real time saver and can be really helpful if you don't want to program your own drums. So that's a really big time saver by using the Beatmaker VICE plugin. And if you want to edit some of these loop phrases further, you can always drag these into your DAW. So we could say, let's drag this verse. We can just press this button here and drag this clip into our arrangement. And drag a fill. And drag maybe some of this chorus loops, and let's listen to this little MIDI clip section we put together. And maybe a breakdown section. Listen to how that sounds. And then of course you can always go ahead and go in there and edit these MIDI clips further if you want to adjust some of these MIDI clips. But for this little track that I put together, I just used some of the pre-made loops in the kit here. Okay, so let's talk a little about the interface of Beatmaker VICE. And at the top here, we have the ability to select some presets. You have the factory bank here, so we have retro presets, which is the presets you will probably go for if you want that kind of old 80s synthwave vibe. And if you want a more modern style, you can go for these modern presets. And there's a whole bunch of presets in here, as you can see. And there's some experimental presets. And these presets will actually mix the kicks and snares and all the other percussive parts of your drum kits. You can't really see what's under the hood, what it's doing, but there's quite a lot of difference between these kits. Right, so let's preview some of the presets in the modern folder here. Let's see a British werewolf in New York. So you can hear there's a lot of variation in these kits. And as I said, all these presets make some mix changes. So you have some saturations on maybe a snare or the kicks and some different effects on the different percussive parts. But it's all under the hood, so you don't have to worry about that. Just select the preset that you think sounds good, play through some of the loops here, or make use of the individual drum kits, the drum hits. So at the left side here, you can change between the different kits within Beatmaker VICE. As I told you, these presets will make some effect changes under the hood. But if you like the effects of a certain preset kit, you can always go ahead here and change the actual drum kit. So let's change this to core. And you can also make the sound more modern, so to speak, by dragging this little slider upwards towards the 2080, or drag it more towards 1980s. So you get more of an 80s sound if you're going more towards the bottom here. And at the right side here, we can change the amount of drive and the beat intensity, which if we drag this down, it will be like it's filtering the beat a little bit, so we get a more damp kind of beat. So you can really tune in the perfect sound which suits your piece and the rest of the music you have going. In the middle of Beatmaker VICE, we have the instrument section and the style section. The instruments here are your individual drum hits. And if we select one of these drum hits, you can also make individual changes to these by changing volume decay, pitch, and a filter if you want to have a more damp kick or more light kick. You can also solo and mute some of these individual hits. And in the middle section here, you can choose either to have a master output, which will make all the output from Beatmaker VICE into a stereo output. But you can also select maybe the bass drum to be an individual output. And this will send the kick in this case as an individual output from Beatmaker VICE. Please bear in mind that if you do that, your kick will not go through your master compressor and the overdrives in Beatmaker VICE. So if you're using the individual section, you have to mix each of the pieces in your kits individually in your DAW. So I highly advise you to use the master instead and just get a really good sound right out of the box from Beatmaker VICE. Then at the right side we have the style section. We talked about this. It's the different MIDI programs that comes with Beatmaker VICE. And we can pre-listen to some of this. I currently have it set to gonna give you up 114 BPM. But since our track is 165 BPM, we can maybe use the happy hour. Let's pre-listen that with the track. So if you want a really punchy sound, just bump up the saturation here and the maximizer, and you get this really tight and upfront, in-your-face drum sound. You can also change the ambience, as you saw me doing there, fiddling a little bit with the ambience, and then you get more of that gated room reverb. But you can also select different presets here if you want early reflection, a gated plate, or the bright gated plate. So let's listen to some of these other MIDI files. Let's go for the Cure Me and see how that sounds. Detective America. One thing to note here, if you want to halve the tempo of the loop or make it double tempo, you can go in here to the micro timing and change half speed. And also drag up this slack slider, which will make it a little bit more sloppy on the hi-hats, I believe. You can change it to normal tempo, which is ×1, or ×2, which is double tempo. Let's go back here again. Yeah, we talked about the latch, which will just make these loops latch, so we don't have to hold that MIDI note all the time. We can just press once. And it will continue to play that loop from that key until we press the stop key. Right, so that's a quick insight into the Beatmaker VICE drum plugin. I believe that some of these kits come from Roland, Linn and Korg drum kits of the 80s. And I think it generates a really authentic sound, so if you want a great 80s synthwave drum sound straight out of the box, I can highly recommend the Beatmaker VICE. The only downside I found with this plugin is that the individual outputs are unprocessed, but that might also be a good thing if you want to process these individual drum hits by themselves. But I would have loved to have an option to activate so that we get at least the saturation and compression on the individual outputs. That said, just put it into master mode and it will output excellent 80s synthwave drum sounds right straight out of the box. It's also really great that Beatmaker VICE comes with this flora of pre-made loops, so you don't have to program all these drums by yourself. You just activate some of the loop keys here and you will have a great 80s backdrop drum kit for your next track. And if you want to check out Beatmaker VICE and maybe purchase the plugin, you can use the affiliate link in the description to this video. Okay, if you have any questions on Beatmaker VICE or creating synthwave music, please write that in the comments section below. My name is Mattias and see you in the next video. Bye!